Good morning. It's Wednesday, August 20th, and we are reading in Spilt Milk Ultrasound. And I wanted, while I have everybody in one place, I wanted to look at what Courtney oops, no, that's not right. Let's go to this. Oh, here we are. All right, there. Share this. Why is that coming up? Oh, do you see her picture?
Yeah.
Great. So meanwhile, I had to Google how old she is. And I had to Google it because it wasn't on her bio or whatever. And it said she's 47. But then I read an article by her in 21 that said she's 45, so she's 49 is the upshot of that. And I enjoyed this chapter, but my first question to you, and then I'll tell you the deep dive I did. Why is it called ultrasound? Why is the name of this chapter ultrasound? Oh, I want to review at the bottom. Excuse me. It says react. And if you press on that, it has raise hand. And it's just easier for me to see if you do it. But I see Lynn has her hand up. I'm going to mute you, Lynn. Why is it called ultrasound?
Okay. Oh, do we have another Lynn in here?
No.
Oh,
There you are.
okay. Talk about deep dive. I think this story is the quintessential deep dive story that I've read. So, I mean, she's doing deep dive all through the book, but this is where she's really getting to the inner workings of what it is that has made her a little psychotic or whatever she is. I'm shocked she's only 49 years old. I mean,
she's an old soul.
Also, anyway, I think that she is trying so hard to find what went wrong with her relationship with her mother. And of course, that relationship with the mother, our mothers, all mothers, mother and daughter particularly, is so crucial in understanding who you are. I mean, we don't know who we are unless we have a relationship with someone and see ourselves as, somehow mirrored or reflected in what that person thinks of us and how we react to that person. So she had that missing her entire life. So I think the ultrasound is trying to find the core of what that relationship was.
Okay. Anyone else? Judy, I'm going to unmute you. Judy, go ahead.
Okay. I think that it was referring to the music. I think ultrasound she was finally getting an insight into the sound of her mother. So I think it related to the music.
Yeah. I was dying to know who the mother was, and I kept doing these deep dives of, but she doesn't say the mother's name, or, she just says Ron's name, which I think is maybe indicative of the whole relationship. And then when when Dee, plays her a record and her mother has this beautiful voice, she's so surprised. Merle can't be here today, and I'm telling you, I've been struggling with why is it called ultrasound for a while, and I said to Merle, why do you think it's called ultrasound? And she said, and not unlike Judy, I think the title ultrasound implies the quality of her mother's music reached beyond ordinary sound. It had greater depth and stirred up many emotions and memories. The title implies that music can be powerful. That was really good. Evie, then Lynn again.
I wasn't thinking about the music at all. I was thinking we hear ourselves when we retell our own stories and what, mean, I was really frustrated, or I didn't love the story, to be honest, and I was going to sit down and just kind of do a little bit of journaling to try to rehash some stories or memories that maybe I have from that period of time. And as we review or re-listen, we pick up other sounds of our own story, and it becomes kind of muffled. That was my.
Interesting. Interesting. Lynn, then Alan, then Alice. Lynn.
I'm gonna react to Judy. I think it's the sound of of a person's voice. The word voice came out a lot in this story. And until you find your voice, you aren't really a person.
Mm.
And I think there's a study done in the inner city of why these kids are so how to say it, lost. And there's a group of people going around trying to get the kids to narrate the stories of their life. And she mentions about a voice that she can't hear because she never heard it. And until she hears the voice of her mother, she has no picture of her. So I think ultras, that's an enigma. I mean, I'm not sure about the ultra, but when her mother starts belting out her song, and I think song is connected to voice, that's when she begins to see what her mother was. And I don't think her mother ever knew who she was. So
I agree with all those points. And now I see, I always learned so much, but when I saw ultrasound, I thought ultrasound, that you're looking for the baby. Ultrasound. And I kept thinking, I've missed something. I've missed something.
No,
Ellen or Andy, I'm going to unmute you.
yeah, it's both of us, but I will just say I accept both, both the sound versus the sound of the music. But something struck me, and I have a suggestion for maybe the very last session of the book after we've read them all. Who says that everything that's in here is autobiographical? She's a writer, and she's taking
Yes, I
things
remember.
from her life, and and we all, anybody that's a writer takes things from their life. But there is so much in here that I think if we went back, I haven't done this at all. But if we went back, and I don't know what I haven't done any studying on Courtney Zoffness and what her life is like and what could be true. But this part about her mother and all the super rock stars that that she was with could be made up. It would be fun to know what was and what
She
wasn't.
calls this nonfiction.
Yeah, right, exactly. So therefore you have to take her, I guess, at her word for that. So there's a lot of this stuff that isn't necessarily her, autobiographical, but I think it would be fun to go back and look at some of these stories and see how they put it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say about the ultra. And it's because it was about sound and voice. So my first, guess at it was that it's just more than sound. It's farther than, just a deeper level of sound. And that's how this author or person expressed herself. And I want to say one thing. I don't think we are only in relationship to our mothers. I think that this is just how I feel about in general, that we all come with a certain soul that is our own, and it develops in different ways, but it can develop fully without, in the end, as you go through, that's part of it. That's just one
Finish
part
that.
of it.
Andy, finish that. It can develop fully without what?
Fully without resolving the mother part or the part with anyone. People have different motives to get through whatever it is and to find themselves.
Right.
And that's just one issue. That's all.
Right. I have Alice, Judy, and then Barb, and maybe Izzy, or she was sending up hearts. Alice. go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, I kind of agree with everybody, and I think that's what
No hearts.
wait.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Vanessa, my first reaction was exactly what your first reaction was, ultrasound. And I think that was intentional because what,
Yes.
before you read the story, what is everybody thinking an ultrasound is? And I think, Lynn, you kind of talked about a little bit. So, I mean, I think it's both. I think it's about getting to the root of who her mother was. And I also think it's about the whole thing. She was a singer, she was involved in the music business and everything. And then, Andy, what you said, I think the word ultra, and it does, the last page is talking about sounds in the universe and in the natural world. So, and, you know, I think the last two lines, she reminds me that lots of animals make noises we can't distinguish, like elephants and bats. Also, I think humans. That for some reason, um, the words that her mother used didn't maybe cross the line and translate to her the way maybe she would have wanted. But I think that that title is really genius because it brings up so many different thoughts in people, and it can be all of the above, I think.
Good. All right. I have Judy, then Barb. No, I have Barb, then Judy. No, I have Judy. Judy, Barb, Izzy, and Elaine.
Okay.
Judy, go.
Okay. I think the ultra refers to the fact that she had a tragic relationship with her mother. It truly, it hurt my heart. This woman was suffering. And so the music and the sound from her mother is ultra because it explains to me that she recognizes the tragedy of her relationship with her mother. And while she's not willing to blame her mother, I think she recognizes the damage that's been done.
Interesting. Barb, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay. I just got back from a Jewish genealogical conference, and one of the things that when I read the story that I related to right away was that I am looking also for my mother, my ancestors. I'm looking for their voice. I'm looking for the essence of who they were. And I think this is the path that she was on. I mean, it's one thing, you know, to look at just records, birth, death, marriage, all that, but to flesh a person out and get to the essence of what they thought, of who they were, of what they believed, is this mission that she is on, and that a lot of us are on, wondering about people
like that.
in our lives.
I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Izzy.
Yes. So what I was thinking when I read the book, and I didn't review it, didn't she her mother move out of the bedroom when they put an addition in the back?
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I think that showed that the relationship between her parents was very, very strained. And I was thinking part of it is because her mother was unfulfilled. You know, she had these incredible relationships with Ron and everything, and then she settled down. And I think she just couldn't sing because she missed that so much part of her life. And I think that affected her whole life. She just wanted
Yeah.
to be out there, and she wasn't. And I think that affected Courtney Zoffness's life.
Well,
Daughter.
I think separate bedrooms. Her husband could have snored, but we're
No,
going to
no,
come
but
back to that.
she actually said that's when my father moved out.
Right,
down.
right,
I think
right.
Elaine and
she
then
wouldn't
Lynn.
put that in, I don't think, unless she had some meaning to it.
Elaine.
I probably am going to divulge more than I should. As you know, my parents were divorced when I was an infant. So I was raised by my mother and grandparents, and my mother was not a singer, but she was bigger than life personality and always had boyfriend. And I was always like trying to please her. And I see that this is in this story. This woman is searching for a mother to say, you're fine, you're good. And if that does not happen when you are very young, you are
Absolutely.
searching for it for, I mean, I'm
Ever.
85 now, and I finally, maybe 10 years ago, came to peace with my mother and I. And I think that that is what the name, it's deep. It's in your gut. It's who you are. Okay, so that's enough of me.
Okay. Lynn.
Oh, that was beautiful, Elaine. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. I'd like us to turn to 156 because I think that she gets to the heart of what the problem is in the relationship. The bedroom, I think, is very important. The woman has totally isolated herself from the family and most relationships. If you remember, the author said her mother had very few friends. So what I hear then and now, virtuosity, fervor, this is what she hears in the voice of her mom. The kind of singing that requires the whole body and all its breath. So the person who said this was a ultra sound that her mother had the potential to have. I imagine my mother belting with her chest out and arms wide, rolling her shoulders across octaves, standing on her toes. I hear Janis Joplin telling Dick Cavett that singing is letting yourself feel all those things that you have already on the inside of you, but you all the time trying to push them aside because they don't make for polite conversation. So that ultrasound is the method for this daughter to try to get what's deep down inside her mother. I hear Jimmy insisting that music doesn't lie. And at the end, she says of that paragraph, that's why I wanted to hear mom's music all those years ago. I think I wanted her to show me how art opens the artist, that exposure is a worthy endeavor. And that idea of exposure, how do we ever see the inside, but through an ultrasound, we get the exposure of that person from birth. So I totally agree with Elaine. That feeling of that getting approval from your mother, for daughters particularly. I think girls and boys. I mean, they all need approval. Um, the thing is, this person had her mother had so many personas that the daughter didn't know who she was. I mean, she was this belter. She was a person who had this boyfriend. So I think this idea of singing is really important because it lets you feel, and the mother has stuffed it, I think, her entire life.
Um,
Yeah,
I'm gonna get to she didn't know she was a belter until she heard this.
till she heard the voice,
Until she
right?
heard the voice. And tomorrow night we're discussing By Any Other Name. And if you haven't read it, I'll put it in the chat. I highly recommend it. But the thing that I kept thinking about is that Ron, who was subpar, like stole her and stole
Right.
her music, everything. I couldn't get over that because there is a parallel, whatever, in By Any Other Name. And did this woman write Shakespeare? But I, again, still trying to unstick. And you see how when you read ultrasound, I'm looking for the birthing, the whole
The
chapter.
birth of it.
I didn't until Merle said something. You can see how you can go off on a wrong path.
Oh, I don't think that's wrong.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
right.
wrong.
Alan and Andy.
Andy.
I thought
Well,
this was-
I agree with what Lynn said and Elaine, but I think there's this other part of that how a person changes no matter what. So what you saw when you were 6, it may not have been it could have been the same situation, but when you're 15, you look at it differently and you realize as you get older that, oh, that's how it looked to me then. And everybody, I think, has that privilege of, maybe I did that, maybe I didn't do it, but that's just how it was. And it's a given across across the board. So,
Yeah.
it's not always, you can get past it, or you can see that you thought that was the intention, but maybe it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Mm.
Evie and then Lynn.
Well, I was sort of
Of course you could, but you-
transferring to present day, and this is probably more information that I need to share, but I'm very sensitive to tone of voice. And I think I've really been hampered by texting and emailing and not hearing the tone of voice when somebody is talking. And I think it's really impacted some of my relationships with my kids because I don't hear their voice at all. It's just all kind of written. It's all abbreviated out of text and so forth. It's a quick sentence. Whereas my mother, who really had very limited relationships, but they were conversations. They were people that she would talk to on the phone. She may not have seen them in person. So to me, the sound of a voice is very important. And it's true, and I might misrepresent or misinterpret, I'm sorry, what somebody's saying by the tone of voice, but I just feel that sound is just so important. And even when we have flashbacks in terms of how did they sound? What did I hear? As opposed to sometimes what did I see? What did I hear?
I think thank you for bringing that up because I will tell you that in the office, we sometimes have to untangle that people didn't like either what we said because they can't hear the voice or the intonation, or sometimes we think that someone's mad or whatever because when you
Totally.
text, you just don't know.
Right.
Unfortunately, you know, obviously I text, but my kids, that's all they do. And obviously, I assume my grandkids are going to go in that direction. But Evie, just like my mother, she used to call all of her friends. She's 92, and she'll be quick to tell you they've all died. But she talks to her nieces, and she likes to be on the phone. And of course, she doesn't know how to text. So that's another,
Huh.
and I remember, and this is a segue, but when the whole COVID, the COVID shots, and you had to go online to register for a vaccine. I did a session with teenagers helping seniors get online because the seniors were eligible but couldn't, I signed my parents up like it that, and the doctor's office who doesn't have a portal like, and should the doctor be calling you or whatever. So it's sound has become it just has become something different. Lynn, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Andy. I think in a normal, whatever is normal person, you're right. This woman has issues. And we've seen that throughout the book. She has not evolved in a normal way. She is really desperate for hugs. I I don't think I can't imagine her mother saying, I approve, I love you, you're good, you have talent, you have skill. I mean, I have friends who talk about the fact that their mother never said they love them, or they never hug them, or they never, and this is still with them. I mean, I don't think you can say that we grow out of this. I think your relationship with your mother is really sets your course for self-esteem, for security. I asked a friend for her husband to take a picture of her and the dress she was wearing to the wedding. She said, "Oh no, I can't do that." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Oh, I'm too insecure." And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So I always say to people when they're observing a peculiar behavior, how was that person parented? You know, I always go to that idea of the relationship of the children, young children, with their mothers. And this woman has been brave in sharing her life with us, I think. I mean, she has been searching for God. She's been searching for her mother. I mean,
Hey,
she's been in
after
search.
she talked about being arrested for a felony for
Yeah.
shoplifting, I was like, okay, you've told us, you know, what else could she tell us?
I know.
That book, that story, we had so much to talk about, Boy in Blue, but wow, I'm still, there's a few things I'm still reeling over. Alice.
Yeah, Lynn, I don't think the word normal, I, that doesn't, that
I don't know.
doesn't
I
sit right
agree.
with me. It doesn't
I
sit right
agree.
with me because you just talked about different friends who had different, and we heard from Elaine and we heard from Evie and we heard from Andy. I think we could all, if we went around, we could all tell
Oh, for sure.
unbelievable stories about our mothers. And which one is normal?
I
Which
totally
one is normal?
agree with you.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah,
agree with
but
you.
that's what I think is interesting about this story. She's digging deep into her relationship with her mother. It sort of made me think more about my relationship with my mother. Yeah, this story really resonated with me. I
Me
think
too.
also because I'm a child of the 60s, all the musicians that she mentioned, it was like, oh my gosh, I can relate to that.
I was dying. I'm
Well,
gonna email her and maybe give her some
well,
court.
I mean, it's my
I just wanna
generation.
know
I
who
was
she,
her mother's generation. I had my kids later, but I
yeah,
could have had a kid her age.
right.
And it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was like, wow. Wow, 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 wow. So yeah. Alan and Andy, wait, let me unmute you. Go ahead.
So I just, back to I think that we have memories, like what Lynn said, this person didn't have enough. She didn't get that love from her mother, but I think there's also, and that may be, I certainly understand that, but we remember one thing that was bad and we forgot 5 things that were good. And I think as an adult, you get to a point where you have to take responsibility for getting unstuck and maybe reviewing something that maybe that, as I said before, wasn't what you thought then. And that's not to, you know, free anyone from blame, or everybody could have done a better job. I just think that this is in spades, and we don't really.
My husband tells me that all the time. He goes, you only remember the bad. You don't remember everything I did and all the chores he's done. When I'm like, he'll say to me, we're out of almond milk. I'm like, oh, I wonder where we could buy that, you know? And then he'll say, you know, but anyway, he does the garden, he does the this, he does the that. All right. Sandy, I'm gonna unmute you. Go ahead. Sandy.
She there? Oh,
Hi there.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you all talk about your mothers, but I thought my mother was perfect. She was selfless. That was the only thing that bothered me. She was selfless with everybody and always put herself last. But she was perfect until I was grown up. She gave me very bad advice when I was about 36. She gave me very poor advice then. But other than that, and the poor woman, I mean, I don't know why it wasn't aborted, because she found out she was pregnant when she was 41.
Oof.
And they told her that she was in her 7th month already. She had no idea she was pregnant. She had raised a family and helped her sister raise her family too, because the sister was widowed. And then she learns that she's in her 7th month with me, and the doctor tells her that I could be twins. He heard a double heartbeat. And
Yikes.
she didn't talk for 6 months. I think she was in shock. But anyway,
I don't blame her.
I don't blame her either. So I made sure that wasn't going to happen to me. Believe me. I said, all my children are going to be 4. I'm 30, and
There
that's
you
it.
go.
And then we'll put an end to childbearing. But no, my mother was perfect.
Okay. Well, we like that. Susan Wellick.
Well, I question as to why this woman even wrote this book and reveals so many deeply personal things about her life, about her relatives, about I would never, ever dream of revealing all these things about myself, about my family. It just, I have to tell you, it actually rubs me the wrong way. I think I'm one of the few people in this group that really does not like this book. I read it, I come, but
Yeah.
I can't identify with it in any way.
The only thing, Susan, that I can say, because and I know you've read by any other name, I think some
Yes,
people feel compelled to write.
Yes.
yes, I
And
understand that.
she must feel this compulsion. Alice.
Well, yeah, Susan, I kind of question what you're saying because I don't know about you, but I've read lots of memoirs, and that's what memoirs do, is they put it all out there.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, most they're not telling you, oh, I live in Highland Park in this beautiful house, and my kids are wonderful, and but
I
they're telling.
realize
Well,
I,
wait, did you read? I can't remember the names of them, but well,
I
never mind.
read a lot, let me
Well,
tell
but
you,
have you
but
read memoirs? Have you read memoirs?
I don't like memoirs.
Okay, well, that's the because that's what memoirs are, Susan. It's not just this book. Memoirs, they tell it all.
I
And
understand.
it's usually not pretty.
I I understand.
Yeah, so
And
well,
I
everybody
understand.
likes different things. You don't happen to like
No,
this.
I don't really want to
But
read about everybody else's troubles. God knows I
oh,
have enough of
well,
my own. I
well,
don't need to hear about anybody else.
I understand that, but for me, it kind of allows me to say, okay, I didn't have exactly that trouble, but I had another trouble, and maybe this is how I should look at. I mean, it opens up my mind to being accepting of different things in my life
I
and
get it.
maybe in other people's lives. Whatever.
Um,
Everybody to each his own.
yeah.
Everybody likes different things.
Joyce and then Lynn. Joyce, I unmuted you. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, for those of us who have daughters, if it made any of you, because it affected me, question our relationships with our own daughters. And if we could do better. I mean, we can always do better. But personally speaking, I know my daughter and I can be like this and push each other's buttons all the time. And I felt badly for Courtney in the relationship she had with her mother. And I just wonder if, after hearing her mother's voice singing, Courtney thought it might be an opening and there might be some healing, but then I don't think so. because I don't think the mother was ready to open that door.
Mm-hmm.
And they both have to open a door to go through that process. And I think the mother is satisfied and content, unfortunately, to keep that door closed. And it's sad.
Lynn.
I think, Joyce, you've hit on something because maybe she needed to find that out after she did her dig, that that's the way her mother is, and she wasn't going to be that way as a mother. Because she says, and Sue, this relates to you, the part I read, I hear Janis Joplin telling Dick Cavett that singing, writing, painting, any of these artistic pursuits, let yourself feel. And that is the thing that she learned from this, and I think will take into her own parenting, and that whatever she learned during this about her mother who couldn't do this, that she'd have to just accept that she couldn't do it. And it had nothing to, she shouldn't take it personally. I mean, it wasn't anything she did that made her mother not what she thought love her or hug her or kiss her or whatever. It was something innate in her mother. And who knows, it could be the way her mother was parented. So, I mean, we learn from anti models as well as positive models. And you know what? It helps me, Sue, when I read something like this, that everyone has struggles.
Right.
And mine sometimes seem insurmountable. And then when I read something like this, I say, well, I don't have it so bad. You know, it's not. My mother hugged me.
Right, you can't
So
help but compare.
you do, absolutely. And boy, this I understand what you're saying about you don't want to read other people's problems, but this author needed to do this. So, I mean, we have the choice of reading about it or not reading about it, but I think for me, this has been wonderful in terms of the way she's expressed herself.
Yeah. Judy, then Abby.
On the last page where she says, sometimes you sacrifice the things you love. I think she's beginning to recognize that maybe she's trying to realign her relationship with her mother, and to admit that sometimes you sacrifice the things you love is acceptable to her, and she can move forward now.
Right.
And I think we all have to come to a point with someone we're having, particularly someone as strong as a mother or father or whatever. We have to get to the point where we try to understand and accept so we're not in so much pain. And I think she comes to that point on the last page.
Right.
And good for her. Good for her. It was a terrible relationship with a mother. I feel terrible for her. It hurt my heart to read about how painful it was, but I think she comes to a conclusion where she accepts what happened as part of life. And maybe that will help her be a better mother.
Exactly.
Yeah. Abby.
I don't even know what I'm responding to because, first of all, I agree with that because I don't care for this book. But what drives me is the conversations about it. I mean, I'm learning from what everybody says, and there's a different perspective. And I mean, I knew that I wasn't good. I knew halfway through that story that I didn't like that story, but I couldn't wait for today to discuss it. Although I didn't really finish it until yesterday. So yeah, back on. I think in terms of you need a certain amount of a lot of maturity to get to the point to accept that it's not personal, that whatever problems you had with your mother, and understand what she was going through, and to be able to separate and to be mature enough to see that. But something too that I know that when one of my parents died, I don't remember which, well, you mourn the person, but you also mourn the person that you did not have.
Exactly.
You wish,
Exactly.
and I think there's just so many pieces
Mhm.
to that. And also, for a while I used to do, when I was doing one of those artist way courses, the morning pages, and it's really kind of memoir writing and just garbage dumping and so forth. And I could almost feel that maybe this was her way of doing that. And somehow you need to be able to get it out there, and somebody say to you, yeah, that happened, but you're okay. But you can do all the writing yourself, but nobody else is giving you that validation. So I think it's partly her gutsiness, to be able to seek that validation, maybe as an author, the people are buying her book, discussing it, and so on and so forth. But I think I'm going full circle. But yes, I don't care for the book, but I understand it and I can appreciate it.
Thank you, Evie. Alice.
Yeah, don't ask me why I did this, but while we were talking, I decided to go to the acknowledgments page because often an author, okay, so the last acknowledgement page, she says, to my parents for nourishing and sustaining my dreams. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. How do you reconcile that with the story we just read?
But the book is dedicated to her husband.
Her husband.
For Jeremy, yeah.
But this is her parents.
But
She's talking about her.
the dedication, at the front of the book, not the acknowledgments.
Yes. I know.
So,
But yeah,
That's very interesting point.
yeah.
And Joyce said something, that we examine our relationships. And I know that I have 2 grandchildren. We have a third on the way. You have, I think, especially in 2025, my kids have a different way of parenting than I parented. They have a different lifestyle. Um, they're vegetarian, they bake bread, all of that. And I try to, and there's a Hebrew word called tzimtzum, where you go back into yourself. That the world, God, everything. There was all these pieces, and trying to get the pieces together. Tzimtzum. And I try. I'm not always, by the way, successful, because occasionally, you just have to let it out. But I think, am I right?
Yes.
I think that, and I think she's tried to. She has anxiety, obviously. I think she's tried not to pass that on to her kid. I don't know how successful she's been. And to Susan Wellick, talk about reading people's problems. I have to say that I've read 100 more rom-coms. What I'm reading now reflects. I don't watch TV. Like I can't watch what's happening in our world. I need to be aware of it, and I can read a little bit about that. And even reading about the Holocaust. I've read so many books about the Holocaust. And people call me all the time, blah 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 has a book, would you like to have them as a speaker? And I don't want to say, straight off no, but I think there's only so much you can take in that way.
Right.
And listen, we're going to have a Holocaust speaker in the spring near Yom HaShoah, and that is always, it brings out a lot of people. And I say there's no business like the Shoah business. And so and people again say to me, "Oh, Vanessa, why can't you do something like?" Because the kids are there, everybody's there, you can hear a pin drop. That story is just, it's terrible, and we need to know it. Lynn.
My students often said, why do you pick all these depressing books? And they said sophomore literature is how to kill your brother or how to kill your best friend or how to kill your wife. Or, I mean, if you think about all of these books that we read, they're pretty depressing.
Yeah.
So I thought about that and I'm thinking about when you go back in your life and think about things, do you go to your happiest moments or do you go to some of your most difficult moments? And there, I think a lot of happens with authors where they go back to their most difficult moments in life.
Mm.
And I don't know how you escape it, Susan. It's not, I mean, reading the books, and I've read a lot of books in my lifetime too, and taught many how to kill your books, how to kill your, do you think about it, separate piece of Mice and Men? I mean, think about that. So, why? Why don't we talk about that? Why is it that authors, so many books are so depressing?
Um, I I think you also have to learn, like when Oprah first came out with her book club, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And I started reading all the books. One was more depressing than the next. And I finally decided Oprah and I have different ideas of what's entertaining. I mean, and hers were like super long and, Stones in the River, The Reader, Wally Lamb's books. I was like, so I don't know. And you go through different parts of your lives. Okay, I had Judy, Alice, and then Susan.
I think that we gravitate toward the depressing books because we learn a lot from them.
Exactly.
And that's really, and also the people that write them because at night when they go to bed, it's screaming at them, and they have to get the scream on paper, and that's their nature.
Right.
I've learned a lot from the depressing books.
I know.
So I appreciate this book a lot, but I more appreciate our discussions about it because everyone's perspective gives us all hope for having a broader perspective of our own lives. And that's how I feel about this book.
Thank you, Judy. Alice.
Yeah. Lynn and Judy, I agree with both of you a lot. But Lynn, when you mentioned a separate piece,
Yes.
okay, that is the book from high school that I remember. I love that book. And I didn't have a life, anything like those
that.
characters. But I don't know, it was something, I don't know, I think sometimes these tragic kind of, it just brings up maybe feelings that maybe you've tamped down. And it kind of allows you to think about things that maybe you wouldn't have normally thought about.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lynn, and Judy, what you said.
I want to respond to that
Yeah.
because that book also has had a really important meaning in my life because when Finney, wait, I forgot. When this boy pushes his best friend out of a tree and he breaks his leg and he ultimately dies. So you have to think about what possessed him to do something like that. And then we talk in class about everybody's dark side. And everybody, if you think about it, has a dark side. And that helped me in life. This has helped me in life because people have said, how could that person do that? He's such a great person. And it helps you, I think reading and seeing theater and looking at art develops empathy in people. And I think empathy is so missing in our society today.
I agree.
And
100%.
so I think we need to read these kinds of books to see what motivates people to do what they do.
Interesting.
100%.
Susan, Izzy, and then Ellen. Susan.
So, I think you've misunderstood me.
Okay.
I don't particularly care for this particular book. when I said I don't read memoirs, I don't generally, but I do read novels, and I I read lots of depressing books, but they're fiction. They're novels. It's not true life.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not like I completely keep myself away from reading anything sad. I don't do that. Of course not. And yes, and when you read books that have sadness to them or fear or whatever it may be that is depressing, it does make you think about things in your own life. And it's just this particular book and this author that I really don't care for. But I enjoy these discussions. That's why I come. That's why I continue to read it, because everybody has something interesting from their own point of view to say. And I respect that. And you're different strokes for different folks. Everybody likes different things. But that isn't to say I completely keep myself away from anything that's sad. Of course not. What kind of a life is that? And when you talk about empathy, yes, we are certainly missing that in this world today. I think when you see how people behave, sometimes you have to get behind and say to yourself, something has caused, you don't know. When the door's shut in someone else's house, you don't know what's going on there. And you don't know what causes people to behave the way they behave.
Agreed, agreed.
So you've got to have a little Rahmanis
Yeah.
for people.
Izzy, and then Ellen, then Barb, or Ellen and Andy.
Okay,
Izzy, go ahead.
this is very depressing. I have to say, when I read this, my mother, I mean, to me, this was like a good relationship. My mother had cancer when I was 10. And you don't talk about it when in 1950, in 1955, you don't talk about your mother having cancer. So reading this book, it's like, okay, she had a mother and she could talk to her. My mother would say, I hope they live to see you graduate grammar school. I hope to see you graduate. And my whole life changed when she had that. She was depressed. So I only like depressing movies, but I don't like comedies or rom-coms and happy little books. I can't read them. I can't relate to them. So, but everybody has such a story behind them, and no one can relate to anybody else unless they've gone through that. So you just have to have empathy and listen and be open, and you don't know anything. People put on facades, and you don't know really what's behind all that. So, but I think everybody's relationship with their mothers is so complex, and with their fathers is so complex. I write. I just write when I feel sad or whatever. I write about my father who was not good. No one, I don't think anybody in this room had a childhood like I had, but I had aunts who were my saviors. And my aunts made a whole difference in my life, and we haven't talked about that. But other people can bring to you what you don't have.
What
And
I
it's
have to say,
so important.
when you talked about your mother not talking about having cancer at that time, and so you didn't, you knew you were left in the dark. I have to tell you a funny story. I think everybody will think this is kind of funny. Um, when I was about 12 or 13, I can't remember exactly, my mother had a hysterectomy.
My mom too.
But I will tell you, I heard her on the telephone talking and telling a friend how she had an appointment with her doctor, who I knew was an OB/GYN. So I assumed that my mother was pregnant.
Oh,
And I went around telling everybody that my
your mother was
my
pregnant.
mother was pregnant, because they didn't tell me
Yeah.
that she was having a hysterectomy, because it wasn't talked about.
Oy.
And they didn't tell me that. So I'm telling people my mother's going to have
Yeah.
Yeah. I
It
need
was-
to get to Ellen and Andy, and I need to close out at 11 because I have a Hebrew class at 11. One that I take, not one that I'm teaching. Ellen or Andy, go ahead.
And yeah, well, I understood, Susan, when you started out what you were saying. I didn't think you didn't read anything sad. I once heard an interview with a musician, and it stuck with me. And the musician said if there's no melancholy in what he writes, then where is the meaning? And the interviewer said, well, I bet that turns off a lot of people. Who wants to hear your music? And he said, you know, if I've touched two people in the audience and they tell me that, I'm very satisfied. And I just think it fits, you know, this was just something I think about a lot when just if you're teaching or if you're doing something, and that the melancholy is so, it's just part of life. How
It's
could
very
we
poignant,
draw that
very
out?
poignant.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank everyone. I certainly have a different perspective, and we meet again September 3rd, and I will remind you, and I will also send out a list of books, ask for your input, and also I'm going to include some of the books we voted on last time, put in some new books, and yeah, you can, give me your feedback. So it's good seeing everybody. If you don't need to come to Macomb, you might want to wait a week. If you have a check or whatever, just hold it, because it's walking across the grass, which I find, it could be squishy or rainy or whatever. So just be careful when you come.
Great discussion, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
really
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
everybody,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.